Hi, and welcome to my channel, Blessed Trimability. Today we're going to be making some low-carb biscuits, and I'm using Sarah from My Montana's Kitchen. I'm using her recipe, and I did not realize what a game changer these are. These actually are zero carbs. The carbs net themselves out. So I eat them with her sausage gravy recipe, which is wonderful. I also use them with, I made some of the wild berry spread, and I'm going to do some videos on how to make that as well. And you can, with that, since it's a fuel pool, you could have biscuit and you can have some butter on it, and you can have some jelly as well. So let's get started on here. I will link her recipe below, but first you're going to put your baking blend and your baking powder and salt, your leavening agents in here, and mix those together. And I tell you, I made these a while back, and they lasted in my refrigerator for at least 10 days. I would eat a couple. I'll be honest, the first night when I made them, I had 2 that night for supper. I had 2 for breakfast the next morning, and 2 that next night for supper, because they are so good. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like I'm eating a real biscuit. And since they zero themselves out with the carbs, there's lots of possibilities of things you can do. And next you'll put in some cold butter, and you're going to take your pastry blender. Here, let me see if I can let you see the bowl. I don't know if it'll work or not. There, yes. And you're just going to cut these up until they're just like pea-sized pieces on here with the pastry blender. And here. No. And sometimes you have to take and scrape it back off like this. How's the weather where you are? It goes from freezing cold to nice and warm, and I'm so afraid that maybe the trees might start to bud. See this little thing I'm supposed to put my thumb on that? I don't think about it to do it that way. But we want to get the butter cut up in there. And this is the way you normally make biscuits if you were going to make them from scratch, the regular, using ingredients that weren't on plan. And so sometimes I find when you do recipes like this, they turn out a lot better because they're the way that you're used to cooking. And some recipes from THM, I remember they would just say, well, mix all the ingredients, and I'm like, well, for heaven's sakes, I didn't get all that baking blend out of there. Sorry about that scratching noise. Okay. So next, grab that. You see how that looks? It's just kind of all up in there. I feel like you're getting ready to see there. Maybe we can see all of it together like that. Next, you're going to put, and I will link her recipe below. You've got some egg white you're going to put in, and an egg. And mine aren't that expensive right now, but you've seen our videos where we have our chickens. But people say, oh, well, you have eggs because you have chickens. Well, the chicken feed has gone up substantially also. And then you're going to put some mozzarella cheese in here and some almond milk. And then we're going to mix this just until it's incorporated. And these are a drop biscuit, so what could be easier than just doing it with a drop biscuit like this? And I feel like, I think this happened last time, it felt a little too loose to me here, so I think I ended up adding a little more baking blend, and I think maybe I wasn't as careful with my measuring of the almond flour, but I think we'll have to put some more in there. But also, since baking blend is made of some different types of flours that we're not used to using, sometimes it takes it a while to absorb it. But I'm going to put, I think, an extra tablespoon to see if that does it for me. Because you want it to be able to hold together so that you can drop them. I'm going to put another one. I think I put too much almond milk in it, but all right. See how that's looking? Yeah, that's much better. Okay, give it a little second there. Okay. Then what you do is you bake them on parchment or still those silicone mats, a still pat. Got a mess going here, don't I? And then you're just going to drop them. It says to make 12, and so we'll see how we can do with that. Sometimes I'll put them in here, then I'll have to I have to go back and recalibrate how many I'm making, because I've made some too big and some not quite big enough on there. But these bake only takes, I think, about, I have to look at the recipe again, 10 to 15 minutes, not very long, but I don't want to give all of her recipe tips away. I want you to be able to go and look up her recipe. And don't you just love her recipes? I do, because they're common. They're, you know, the things that we make. And you know, who would think that you can eat biscuits and gravy or biscuits and jelly and still lose weight? I'm going to move this up so I don't have to keep doing that. I hope you've all been doing well. I know it's been a minute since I've been on here. I've been so busy working, and you know what I find is when you get too busy, it's really hard to stay on plan. But if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I try to get some things made up. And like this right here, this is, I'm gonna take a drink. This is fruit punch Good Girl Moonshine. And I make a concentrate of a quart of it, which ends up making, I can make four days worth of drink out of that. You know, and if you think about it, it tastes so much better than soda. And have you seen the price of soda? Who can afford that anymore? But I will tell you, I was at my daughter Hillary's, who, I want to shout out to her. She is rocking THM. She has lost 20 pounds. Such an inspiration. I'll do some videos with her as well. She found this seltzer water, and then we put stevia in it. It tasted like a dreamsicle. A dreamsicle. It's like, oh my. And my son-in-law Zach said, I heard you like that. I said, oh, no. Like is not the word. I loved it. It was so good. So she gets it at a store by where she lives, about an hour and a half away from me, but there is a store similar to that, not too far from me, so I'll be sure and get some of that. So see, now this is my 12th biscuit. See, there's not enough. I'll see what I can scrape around and see what I can get, and then we'll bake them. But like I said, these are just plain. Sarah talks about in her recipe, if you were going to use them for dinner, that you might want to put maybe some garlic powder or onion powder. I can't remember exactly what she said, but some different things in there to give them a little more oomph. But for what I've used them for, they are just fine. Okay, let's see which one we think Mike can use. I can steal from to make this one okay. Okay, a little story I was wanting to talk about. The other day I was driving to work, and it was so terribly foggy. I mean, it was kind of like Helen Keller driving to where you couldn't see where you were going. And but something caught my eye when I was going down the road. Of course, I live out in the country, and I looked up, and the fog was so far, but if I looked up, it was clear. I mean, you could see. Of course, you can't see where you're going from up there, but it just made me think of how I have a little sign in my office, and I'll try to put a picture of it in here, and it says, when in doubt, look up. And you know, if you're trying to look straight through that fog, you only look a little bit at a time, but you know, nothing that happens to us or that we do takes our Heavenly Father by surprise. He knows about it. So when in doubt, look up. You'll see the clearing, and God will make a way. You know, if we're faithful to Him, then He will help us just as well and be a big part of our lives. Okay, so here I think I have 12 that are kind of similar. So I'm going to bake these, and I will show you. I will either pop back on here, or I will just put a picture of the finished product. But stay tuned, because I'm going to do I use the Wow Berry spread recipe in the Trim Healthy Future cookbook, and I make it with blueberries. That's what I made it with so far, but I'm going to make it with blackberries. I'm going to make it with maybe a strawberry or a berry blend. But then, and those would all be fuel pulls. And then my ideas are to change it up and use some cherries, which would turn it into an E, but that's fine. These biscuits, what did we say they are? They are zero carbs. So we could have it with them. Of course, you'd have to watch your butter on that, but you could use some, what's that called? Laughing Cow, or even, I've heard people, you know, some cottage cheese, you could do that too. And Hillary made me some the other day, and it was on the Trim Healthy Facebook page. It was called cheddar cottage spread, and it's a fuel pull as well, and it was really good. So I'm going to bake these, and then I will show you the final result, and hope to see you soon.